Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be all about the ways that my life has actually changed since having a baby, since becoming a parent. Also, this video is sponsored by Skin and Me. More about them later in the video. Obviously, becoming a parent is a massive change, but I wanted to take stock of the specific details and give you a specific example of how one person's life has changed and how it was before and how it is now. If it is different at all, spoiler alert, it's very different in some areas, not so much in others. Maybe you're also a parent and will be able to relate to some of these things. Maybe your experience will be completely different, and it's kind of interesting to see all of the different varied experiences that there are. Or also, I've been having a lot more conversations with friends in my life recently about whether or not they should have kids, how to decide if you should have kids, and so maybe getting a little glimpse into the reality of how your life does actually change might help. That decision is entirely up to you, but maybe you can just get nosy about my experience. So I've split this up into various categories ranging from personal stuff, physical body stuff, relationships, friendships, work, finances, hobbies, all of that kind of stuff. And we are kicking it off with a category that I'm calling mind, body, and soul. So mind, this is about mental health changes. Body, this is about physical changes. And soul, I'm kind of alluding to like your sense of self changes, if any. So first up with mind and mental health stuff, I had never experienced any mental health issues pre-pregnancy and very luckily avoided postpartum anxiety and depression. I didn't have any like severe difference in my mental health throughout pregnancy and birth and postpartum, other than what has felt like to me very natural emotional ups and downs of life and parenting. I have been very steady mentally, which I'm very grateful for. I do occasionally get intrusive thoughts about awful things happening to Rowan or Dan or me, but I'm very good at like quickly recognizing that thought, because often like my brain will just like play out an awful scenario in my head and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I spending brain power and time thinking about this? And I'm usually pretty good at like getting myself out of them, even though they are like awful. But they aren't necessarily something new, because I would often get those same kind of playing out awful scenarios, intrusive thoughts about like my sister or my parents, and now it's just been replaced with like Dan and Rowan. I do often feel a lot of stress and anxiety, but that is mostly work related, and that's not new, although there are like added stresses to that now, like since having a kid. And then I've also occasionally had days where I've felt stress in my body, but I'm like, what am I anxious about? Like, what am I stressed about? And I like feel physically so anxious, and I'm taking stock of everything that is happening that day, that week, like what is going on in our lives in that moment, and I'm like, what is causing this? And that is annoying. Don't like that. Not a fan of that. Okay, moving on to the body. So content warning for this section, there are going to be discussions of weight and dress sizes, but I'm very much going to be approaching them from a body neutral perspective. So first up, the boobs. Can't not talk about my boobs. We all know they're already massive. Like my starting point was big tits. And then post-birth, it was insane. And I don't think I quite realized quite how insane that growth and the size of them were at the time. But when I look back at photos, oh my goodness. So they had increased in size throughout pregnancy, but that initial postpartum period, like as soon as the milk came in, it was poof. I started out being like a 30 double G pre-pregnancy, and then I think the max I went up to was like a 30J or something. The amount of money I've had to spend on new bras and nursing bras is not fun. Don't want to think about the amount of money I've spent on bras. But interestingly enough, the boob size has gone back down. I'm not 100% sure what my size is now, but my like 30J nursing bras that I was wearing are way too big on me. They are humongous. But I think that reduction also coincided with some of my weight loss, and I talked about this in an episode of the Hormone Diaries over on my other YouTube channel. But essentially my weight post-birth just kind of like gradually went back down. Like I wasn't really doing anything. I gradually lost the pregnancy weight, and then I kind of steadied out at I don't know. I don't weigh myself, so I have no idea numbers or anything. But then around 1 year postpartum, I noticed a real like sudden weight loss, and I think smaller than I was pre-pregnancy, but not as fit. Not as fit at all. My stamina is much lower. I get out of breath more easily, and I struggle like walking up hills. It's a lot of work, but even though my stamina feels like it's not as good, I feel stronger because I've basically been weight training with a really big baby for over a year. I feel very me in my body though. I feel very good about my body. I don't feel disconnected from this body at all. I think it helps that I fit into a lot of the clothes that I wore and love pre-pregnancy. I think that helps with kind of like maintaining a positive relationship with my body, even though that is like a superficial thing, but it does play on our emotions and like how we feel about our bodies. And I do generally just like feel less fit and weaker, but also stronger at the same time. And I don't know how to really explain that. The other thing is, look how much my hair has grown. So I donated my hair, chopped off loads of my hair about a month before Rowan was born, and so this is all of that growth in the last year and a bit. It was, I think, like this length, so I don't know how many inches that is, but I've had some good hair growth, and I didn't experience postpartum hair loss, which I know a lot of people get, where your hair just kind of like just keeps falling out, and I was fully expecting to experience this because I had such bad hair loss after my abdominal surgeries that I had back in like 2018. I experienced like the cycle of hair loss and then regrowth then, and I kind of just assumed that like my body going through another surgery and another trauma, like the hair loss thing would happen again, but it didn't. At least not to the same extent that I would have noticed, but I'm very happy with my hair right now. Although maybe the video is already up, or maybe it'll be up soon. There's a haircut coming. Finally, it's been over a year. And then also body related is my skin. And so this is where Skin and Me comes into it, who I've worked with before and are sponsoring this video. So one of the biggest changes for me, I think, in terms of my relationship with my body, my relationship with my face and my skin before baby versus after baby, is my relationship with makeup and also having a skincare routine. What? So before having a baby, the pandemic definitely impacted my relationship with makeup. I started wearing makeup a whole lot less, but I still wore it for videos. I still felt like I really had to wear makeup on camera. And then also I would wear it if I was then like going out and doing stuff once you were allowed to do that. Also pre-baby, I had no clue about skincare. I was very overwhelmed by all of the options out there. I didn't really understand it. I basically just washed and moisturized my face, and generally I avoided getting any skincare products because I just felt so overwhelmed by the choices. And so post-baby, I actually started using Skin and Me a few months postpartum, I think it was. So I've been using them, I think, almost a year now. Love it. The longest I've ever stuck to any skincare routine ever. And now, as you can see, I don't even wear makeup on camera. I have maybe worn makeup like less than half a dozen times. I can count them on like one hand, the amount of times I have worn makeup since Rowan has been born. And I feel really good about that, and I feel really good about my skin. I think my skin has improved massively in the last year, thanks to this and thanks to not wearing makeup. So Skin and Me is expert skincare, but in a really easy and convenient way. And I didn't have the time before having a baby to research skincare, and I have even less time now. So this is perfect for me. It is personalized and designed by dermatologists and tailored to your skin and your goals, and they will take into account things like if you are trying to conceive, if you're pregnant, or you're breastfeeding, which is something that I didn't even know that you would have had to consider before. So I'm so glad that like I have these experts in my corner, like knowing that information for me when it comes to picking what products I should put on my face. As you can see, it says for Hannah on it. It's for me. And so now I have a skincare routine. I have an evening skincare routine, and it is such a precious time for me at the end of a busy day of working and parenting, and it's just like 5 minutes that I have to myself just to kind of like wash everything away and take care of my skin. So this is my daily doser. It's all recyclable packaging and made to order, so there's no wasted product, and it is ordered on repeat, so you never have to worry about running out because your next one will be delivered to you straight away. So convenient, thank you. Also, you don't have to worry about knowing how much product to use because essentially you just twist this top and the product comes out, and when it clicks, then that is how much you use. You put that on your face. So if you want to try Skin and Me, you can click my link in the description or use my code Hannah08Y and you will get your first daily doser for £4.99. Thank you so much to Skin and Me for sponsoring this video. And now let's talk about the soul. So these changes are a whole lot more vague, and I wanted to talk more about your kind of like sense of self. For me, I still don't feel like a mum. Like, I don't know what a mum is supposed to feel like. I just feel like me, plus I have a child, plus there's another person just hanging around who I love very much. Very much feels like an understatement, like more than fucking anything. I have this feeling of my life feeling full and having meaning, which I struggle with feeling that because I don't believe that my life wasn't full or didn't have meaning before having a kid. And I don't believe that people who don't have children don't have full and meaningful lives. It's a very strange thing to grapple with because I believe all of that stuff, but then I feel like my life is full and has meaning with my child. And I'm not sure how to reconcile that. I don't really feel like I have changed, like to my core and my personality and feeling like me, like who is Hannah? Like I still really feel like me, and I'm so happy and thankful for the fact that like I don't feel like I've lost myself to motherhood, which is a thing that can happen through no fault of your own, obviously. But I do feel like how I'm perceived is changed, because even though internally I still really feel like me and I'm the same person that I was before, practically in terms of like how I go about the world and how I interact with other people, how I put myself out there online and like what I have the capacity to talk about, I feel like it's all about parenting. And then I think that I'm being perceived in a different way than how I feel that I am inside. I have no idea if I'm making any sense, but that is just a thing that I think I'm going to be endlessly navigating. What fun. So those are the main ways that I feel like my mind and my body and my soul have changed since becoming a parent. And next I want to talk about how my day-to-day daily routine has changed. So when it comes to a daily routine, this is the most routine my life has ever felt. I think also because I work for myself and my job being quite flexible, I've never really had such a like strict daily routine. I've always kind of like imposed one on myself, but every day has still been really different. And this is the most routine that my life has ever had. Like every day is very, very similar. However, it's not all that much different to what our life was like during the pandemic. And so I do kind of feel like that eased us in to having this bit more like smaller, at home, doing less crazy out and about exciting things kind of existence. I think if I'd have gone from the life that I had pre-pandemic that involved a lot more traveling, that involved a lot more late nights, then I think this change would have been a lot more like for me than it was. But generally, I really enjoy the like smaller life and routine. Lions, however, are a thing of the past, even on weekends. Like the only way that we get a lion is if we've got family visiting and so they're staying over, and then when Rowan wakes up, we just go, here. Or if like one of us is feeling particularly rough after a difficult night, then the other person will like do the morning shift on the weekends. But not so much in my case, because I'm a morning person. Like when I'm up, I'm up. And so I do struggle to have a lion if I've already been awake for a little bit. I have never been more tired in my entire life. And I know that's such a cliche because people say like parenting is hard and like you're just exhausted all the time. All of the time. I managed to hide it by doing things that I really love and the things that give me energy. But underneath it all is just tiredness. Just so tired. I was trying to rewrite my Instagram bio post having a baby to kind of like be like, how am I feeling? Who am I now? How do I want to present myself to the world? And I had no idea what to put. And in the end, I just put, I'm tired, and I have not changed it. Because one, it's true, but also I'm too tired to like write an Instagram bio. There's definitely a blessing and a curse to having more routine than before. The blessing is that you just like get used to the routine and you love the routine, and like it's just kind of nice to have like predictable beats throughout the day, like drop off and pick up, and like this is the time that this happens, and then like Dan will come home from work at this time, and then we eat at this time, and then like I really like going through the motions of that. But then the downside is that then if something comes up where you do need flexibility and you do need to change things, then you just kind of have to like think, okay, like there's just a little bit more like work and negotiating and communicating that needs to be done if things do need to change. But that's the case for everything. So generally, I really like our little daily routine. But speaking of communicating, the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the impact on relationships and friendships. Okay, so relationships. I have split this up into romantic, family, and friendships, but because becoming a parent impacts all of these, all of your relationships with everybody. So for me, my romantic relationship is with my husband, who's also my co-parent, and obviously the main change there is that we've added a whole new component to our relationship, which is the fact that we are co-parents now. Like that is a new segment in our identity. Like we're romantic partners, we're sexual partners, we are cohabiting partners, financial partners, like all of these things, and now we're also co-parents. And for us, it has been amazing. Obviously, I thought we made really great partners before having a kid, but that has just like solidified since. I think we make a really great team. I think like the impact of becoming parents on our relationship has, I don't even know if I would say if it's changed the essence of our relationship, because the essence is still like so strong and so good. It's not changed the way that we feel about our relationship or feel about each other. There hasn't been like anything that's come up that's been like, oh God, what have I done? Like never saw this side of this person before. We've not had any of that. We've not had any like disappointments or like letting down of expectations or like major disagreements or anything like that. I would say the main change is just like the time that we have to spend together. Like we don't have a huge amount of time to date each other, but we have been on like a few dates when we've had grandparents babysitting Rowan. It is mainly just practical things have changed rather than like the relationship itself. But I think the reason why that is the case is because when situations change, when practical logistical things change, you need that communication there to make sure that that is not actually having an impact, a negative impact on your relationship, on your feelings for each other itself. We definitely had really strong communication skills before, but I think that they have improved, and there were definitely like tough conversations that we had with each other during pregnancy in preparation for this. There was a lot of just like laying everything out there that we had to do, and I'm glad we did. Next up is family, and one of the biggest changes here is that I see my parents a whole lot more than I used to. My parents don't live in the same city as me. They absolutely adore Rowan and are keen to be very active grandparents, as are Dan's parents. So yeah, I see my parents and my in-laws a lot more. I'm not complaining about it because we both have good relationships with all of them, which very lucky because you hear stories. You hear stories about grandparents and in-laws, especially when it comes to grandchildren. And yeah, we've not experienced any of the like negative side of that. I won't say anymore, but oh my God, we dodged a bullet there. For the most part, we're just really making the most of it because on both of our sides, Rowan is the first grandchild and the first great-grandchild. So he is getting all of the attention, all of the love, all of the visits. If he ever gets any siblings or cousins, then obviously that time will have to be divided. For now, great, like come visit us and look after this child and let us have a lion. That would be great. I feel like I'm much closer to my parents now because there's this like huge part of their identity as my parent, and now that's something that I share with them being a parent myself, and it's really lovely hearing their stories, of like parenting me and my sister, and I just love watching them being grandparents to Rowan. Like, so good, so cute. It's such an amazing feeling, like feeling all of the love and support that surrounds our family, because there's just like so much love there, and you can feel it, it's amazing. With my sister and Dan's sister as well, I feel like we see them loads more than we would otherwise as well. They're both just amazing aunties and amazing sisters, and yeah, I'm so grateful that the like family element of relationships has basically just all been like net positive, because I know that a lot of people experience like a lot of stress in that area of their life, especially after they have kids of their own, but we have been very lucky in that department for sure. Next up is friendships, and this for me is where the biggest change has come since having a baby. Romantic relationship, fine. Family relationships, fine. Friendships, so confusing, so confusing. So my friendships haven't gone bad, it's just that I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to them. And I have always been quite a low maintenance friend kind of person, so I think that's maybe helped a little bit because it's not been like such a huge change, but it's a big enough change that I feel it and don't really have the tools or the time to address it. So amongst my friend group who pre-having a baby I spent most of my time with, you know, live in the same city as me, we do similar activities together, we hang out, we chat, like all of the friend stuff that you do. Like one other of them has had kids. Luckily they have a kid very similar age to Rowan, but they live on the other side of London to us. So yeah, I think being in London as well like is its own thing when it comes to friendships with or without children, because all of your friends, like even if you live in the same city, it could still take you like an hour to like go around to their house. And then when you add a baby into the mix, it just becomes all that more like difficult and time consuming. But yeah, I definitely see my friends a whole lot less. I feel a lot less involved in their lives in terms of like knowing what's going on. Like I want to be there for them, I want to be able to support them in like whatever it is that they're going through, but I know I'm probably not like the first person that they're going to ring because they know I've got my own shit to be dealing with. But hopefully that's not going to be forever. I obviously like really want to still be a good friend, but I think that's kind of hard right now. I get a lot of FOMO when I see old friends and like people from my past life like all hanging out together, and I'm like, like the FOMO is real, it's tough. But then sometimes I'm just too tired to experience FOMO, I'm just too tired to care. But I do feel a little bit out of the loop sometimes. And yeah, it's tricky to know the best ways to stay in the loop. I don't know, more group chats, how about that? More phone notifications, great. I have obviously made new friends since having a baby. I've got my new parenting friends who do live a lot more locally to me, so it's a lot easier to like see them, and also we have a group chat, and that's amazing for like spewing all of the stuff about baby parenting things. The thing with those friendships though, they are very much still in their like early stage, and whilst it's amazing to have like a group of people to talk about your babies with, like that is so necessary and so crucial, we haven't all gotten to the point where we're talking about other things. And so I still feel like I need my other friends to like access the other parts of my life and the other things that I'm interested in talking about. And also like I want to talk about my friends, I want to talk about their lives, I want to know what's going on with them. But those kinds of deeper friendships just come with time, and I'm kind of like holding out for them, hoping we get there. But for now, like having the baby conversations is so needed. And then of course the other thing when it comes to friendships is just like needing the time to socialize. So either it has to be a social occasion that I can bring Rowan to, so I need to be able to like bring my baby, which most of my friends who don't have kids, you know, don't necessarily understand what makes a baby accessible event. Which is not their fault obviously, but sometimes I have to be like, no, I can't do that because of this, or like, oh, this would make that much easier for me if we did it this way. And then sometimes I then feel like guilty for being like the awkward one who has the baby and has needs. Or if I'm not bringing Rowan with me, then I need to get Dan to be available to look after him, which he is most of the time. But also I don't want to take the piss, because I wouldn't want him to take the piss when it comes to getting baby free time. And so it's about being selective, like being really, really selective about which friends I want to see and what things I want to do with them. Because if it was just like, oh, hey, do you want to come out for dinner? I'd be like, no. It's like, oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. I'm like, okay. Like, the special occasions, let's go. But yeah, I think the friendship thing after you have a kid is really interesting, especially if like you're the first to have kids out of your friend group. I think it'll be really interesting to see like over the next 5 years, as more of my friends who do want to have kids are having kids, how those dynamics like continue to change. Hopefully I'll have more people to give our secondhand baby child stuff to. That would be great. So next I want to talk about one of the other areas of my life that has probably had one of the biggest changes, and that is work and finances. So yes, this is probably my biggest area of change and the thing that has been impacted the most from having a baby. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. So on the one hand, there's been a lot of practical changes. So one of them being my work routine, so like taking time off, maternity leave, and then going back to work part-time and like gradually building up my hours. And then also like where I'm working from. So I still have my studio, but my home is closer to Rowan's childminders than the studio. So to save time, I do most of my work from home, and unless we need to shoot in the studio or we're recording podcasts, I'm here. So a lot of weeks I don't go into the studio at all. So that is a big change, because I used to like work full-time out of the studio, but by not doing that, one, it makes pumping easier because I'm just like right next to all my equipment and my fridge and my sink and stuff. But two, it saves me probably about 30 minutes to an hour a day by not going to the studio, and that time is precious. The other practical thing that I've spoken about in lots of other videos, especially the income revenue streams pie chart video, and that is money. So taking time off and working part-time and having a baby and maybe not having as many interesting things to say about that online, that has caused an impact on my business finances. So that has decreased a lot. So I've actually had some sessions with a career coach, because I just feel like I need somebody professional to like hash out everything that I'm thinking and I'm feeling, and to help me like prioritize what it is that I want to do, help me get like clarification over what I want my job to look like, what I want my work to look like, what I want my relationship with my work to look like. She's really helped me. I actually spoke to her when I was pregnant, because I was trying to figure out what I wanted from maternity leave and what I could do, and figuring out all of that kind of stuff. And so she really helped me get clarity in terms of how much time I wanted to take off and what I wanted my like plan to be for maternity leave and beyond, as much as you can plan for that. And so I reached out to her again more recently, because I do feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm constantly in like a transitional period, but more so recently, I just need to figure out things. I don't think I'm 100% happy in how things currently are, but I'm not 100% sure on how to go about changing that and what to do about it. But I think one of the things that is impacting that is just that numbers are down like everywhere since I came back from maternity leave, except for this channel that I've mentioned before. This channel is thriving post having a baby, but the podcast and the Hannah Witton and Friends like sex ed channel have certainly suffered a bit, as has my Instagram profile, like my main Instagram account, and that is hard to deal with, like not just in terms of the superficial level of like caring about the numbers, but also how those numbers impact my business, impact my motivation, impact how much I think doing something is worth it. It's just definitely brought up a lot of questions and complicated feelings. I think also becoming a parent and that being now like a huge part of my life, I just feel stale. And I think part of the reason for the numbers going down is that like other people can feel that. I feel like I've said everything that I want to say. Like maybe I feel a bit more detached from the things that I'm making. I don't have as much mental energy to put into things, and I'm still like trying to produce all of this content, but I haven't spent any time on me and refilling my well and fueling and nurturing my own curiosity to then share things with you to get you guys curious about things. And this is one of the reasons why I've been like bringing other people onto the channel and like going places and working with other people, because that fuels me. That is so fun. That is so exciting to me. Like I love making those videos, but those videos are hella stressful and expensive to make, and they don't often get the like viewership and the attention that they would need to make that a sustainable business model, which is obviously why Patreon is so important. Obviously I talk about Patreon all the time. Like that is basically how things are funded. That's interesting. Just struggling with what the hell do I post so I don't sound like a completely broken record. Am I bored of myself? Yes. A lot of the time. And then on a less existential note, another thing that has changed post having a baby that I wasn't expecting, it just kind of happened, was that I stopped editing and like filtering my photos. I think maybe like the first 2 or 3 photos that I posted after giving birth, after Rowan was born, still had the usual like filter, like photo color editing stuff that I used before. But then after that, I don't know, something just like snapped and I was just like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And so now like all of my photos are just like what it was on my phone, and that's what you see on Instagram. Just that is it. Yeah, a switch flipped there, and I don't know how, and I don't know why, and I don't care, and I love posting completely unedited photos. I've never even talked about that before, and I have no idea if people even notice that that's something that I do, but that's something that I do or don't do. Okay, so enough of the boring work chat. Let's talk about how parenting has impacted my hobbies. Okay, so some of my main hobbies before having a baby were tennis, running, playing board games and video games, going to the theatre, reading, baking. Those are the main ones that I can think of right now. In terms of those, tennis, I had to stop playing tennis when I was around, I think, 20 odd weeks pregnant, and at about 14 months postpartum, I started playing tennis again. That's very exciting. I felt very rusty first session back, but actually like quickly got back into it and thoroughly obsessed. I love tennis. And I even went to Wimbledon again this year. Oh, love it. Running, haven't done at all. Postpartum, not a second. To be honest, running is not how I would personally choose to spend my baby free time. It is not a top priority for me anymore. Board games, oh, that's their books. Board games. Dan and I don't play as much as we used to, especially not like the epic games that take like 4 or 5 hours to like set up and play, like War of the Ring and Gloomhaven. One day, maybe one day. But we have had opportunities to play some other ones together. Dan recently got Binding of Isaac, which we've been able to play. There's a game called Sentinels that's new that we've played since Rowan was born. This is still a hobby that is just, it's just there. There's the option to play if we have the time and the energy. One thing that I would love to be able to do, but I just don't feel like we're able to at this stage in parenting, but hopefully it will become available to us in the future, and that is like hosting board game nights and like having friends over to like play board games together, or going over to a friend's house to play board games together. At the moment it's very much like a stolen 30 minutes to an hour where it's just me and Dan, but hopefully the more social board gaming will happen again soon. In terms of the theatre, this is one of the things that I have been able to do a lot more since Rowan was born, because Dan is an excellent and willing co-parent who will look after Rowan when I want to go to the theatre for a special occasion. So I've been able to like go see a lot of stuff, and that's also one of my like prime like socializing mechanisms with friends as well. In terms of things like films though, like movies, cinema and TV, less so. I mean, the first few months postpartum I watched so much TV. pregnancy. So much of that time was dedicated to breastfeeding and having a breastfeeding or sleeping baby on me and just watching telly. Glorious. That was definitely one of the like positives of that newborn phase. Cinema, went to a few baby cinemas when Rowan was really little, but then like once they are staying awake longer and a bit more like interactive, then it just becomes something that is impossible to do. Going to the cinema is something that I would really love to be able to do, but it's not a priority for me as like the theatre. Until the Barbie movie came out. I'm filming this before the Barbie movie is released, and I think I actually might have to ask Dan to look after Rowan for a few hours whilst I go see it. But for the most part, I haven't been to the cinema since baby cinema times. You know, you win some, you lose some. I chose theatre over cinema. Your choices may be different, but when it comes to Barbie. And then the other thing is video games. That is something that has completely fallen by the wayside for me. It's just not a priority. It's not something I'm interested in. When I have time to like do that, I would rather be doing something else. However, mobile games. I re-downloaded Candy Crush and then I was playing that loads, and then now I'm onto the one where you've got the test tubes with the different colours and you're sorting out all of the colours. I'm in a mobile phone game phase, and this is essentially like when breastfeeding Rowan to sleep, and like he's basically gone, he's just like still latching and like feeding to sleep, or if he wakes up, and this is like before I've gone to bed, I'm just like lying there with this baby attached to my boob and I'm bored, and so I just play on my phone because I can only do something one-handed. It's a bit, you know, tricky, and so I have to do something that like will keep me entertained but is really easy, and if the baby does start to stir, then I can see to him. I'm not happy about my new mobile phone game habits. If anyone has any recommendations for some good ones that you can do one-handed and are really simple and fun and engaging, let me know. But speaking of habits, let's talk about how some of my habits have changed since having a baby. All right, let's talk about habits. So the main way that my habits have changed since having a baby is that I used to track my habits. No more. No more. During the pandemic, I started using a habit tracker, just a template in Notion that I used, and I tracked the things that I really wanted to do daily, and this was going outside, reading, taking folic acid. I also tracked going for a run and exercise and gratitude practice. One, I get outside every day now. If I didn't, I would go mad. So I don't feel like that's something that I need to track anymore. It felt like something that I needed to track in the midst of the pandemic when it was really easy to stay indoors all day and like not go for a walk. So a lot of these things I'm not tracking just because I'm doing them anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Reading, I did a whole month reading vlog thing, so you can kind of get a sense of what my habits are when it comes to reading with that. Lots of audiobooks basically. The gratitude practice, this stopped. I just haven't felt like I've had the time just to sit, even though it takes like 2 minutes less than that. But I found that gratitude practice like so useful whilst we were trying to conceive and not getting pregnant. That really helped me through that time. After Rowan was born, I don't know, I just like feel grateful every day for everything. And I've not felt the need to write it down. Other habits that I didn't keep track of before, but are things that I've noticed have changed. Some for better, some for worse. Drinking. I drink a whole lot less. This generally over the past like 5 years or so has been a steady decline, but then obviously I didn't drink at all during pregnancy, and then postpartum I've had the odd drink here or there, but I think I just realized like how easy it was for me to stop drinking alcohol during pregnancy. Like I never missed it, I didn't really care, and so that has just like continued through to now. Yeah, I'll have like the odd drink here or there, like, you know, it's been summer, I went to Wimbledon, I've had a Pimm's, like love a Pimm's. So for me, like the drinking is like more an occasion thing, and I'll have like one. I wouldn't consider myself a drinker. The downside of this is that I drink so much sugary Coca-Cola. I love Coke. That is what I've replaced alcohol with. Just caffeine, sugar-fueled Coke. It's not great, but it tastes so good. If you have any recommendations of what I should order in a pub as a drink that hits the spot the same way a Coke does, let me know, because I need to know. Okay, so another habit that I would never even called a habit before, but it has like increased to the point where I'm like, this is something that I do a lot now, and that is shopping. Granted, I'm still very much about like sustainable and secondhand shopping for the most part. I probably have bought a few things new. The majority of it is all secondhand or a sustainable brand, but I actually kind of can't believe how much I've been buying clothes. It all started like middle of the night breastfeeding and like needing different outfits for the summer and to be able to breastfeed in, and then it like escalated, and then I got my color analysis done, and then I started thinking about like colors and clothes and style in different ways and getting excited by different combos, and it's all come from like a really like joyous place, and I like love and wear all of the things that I've been buying. I've done a lot more like just nipping into a charity shop and mooching, and then just like finding a gem and finding something and being like, oh well, this is mine now. I don't know how I feel about it, because I don't think I need much of it. Like occasionally I'm specifically seeking out a thing, but for the most part it's just like pure joy and expression. Part of me is disappointed in myself for like being such a consumer, but I don't really think I should be punishing myself. And I think for me, as long as I'm like buying as much as possible secondhand or sustainably, then that's fine. I think because I surround myself in person and online in people who are talking about fast fashion and slow fashion and like consumerism and all of these things, I like hold myself to higher standards, when in the grand scheme of things I probably buy a lot less clothes and have a lot less impact in my consumeristic clothes buying habits than your average person. But still, if we're just talking neutrally here, I buy a lot more clothes now than I did before having a baby. Why is that? I don't know. And then the other habit is keeping my phone by my bed. So I got into a really great place where I never slept with my phone by my bed. I can't remember for how long, but it was ages, and that was my habit. It was always in a different room. It was great. I loved it. It meant that I was never like scrolling on my phone before bed. I had a separate like alarm clock thing. What did I even use? I now can't even remember what I was using as an alarm clock. But basically that has all changed. Breastfeeding loads in the middle of the night, always needing just to be able to grab my phone to like see what time it is or like keep me awake and entertained. It has been necessary. I now just like have my phone by my bed at all times, sometimes even like under my pillow, like literally like within reach, so that if, you know, like I'm feeding Rowan, then I can just like grab my phone wherever it is. I'm also not thrilled about this habit, but practically it is necessary. It feels necessary, at least to me at this time. And then of course another new habit of mine post having a baby is having a skincare routine. So thanks again so much to Skin and Me for sponsoring this video, and you can use my code Hannah08Y to get your first daily dosa for £4.99. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Were there any things that surprised you that had changed or not changed? I also wonder like what your own personal like expectations are of like life with a baby, like versus the reality of that. Like what things in your life have changed versus what things haven't, and did any of those things surprise you? I hope that you're all doing well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!